All right, this is Chapter 1, Lesson 2, solving multi-step equations. In Lesson 1.1, we solved one-step equations. Now we're just adding some extra steps. So to do this, you use inverse operations, and remember inverse operations. If you see addition, you subtract. If you see subtraction, you add. If you see multiplication, you divide. If you see division, you multiply. Those are our inverse operations. And to isolate means to get by itself. So we want to isolate the variable, get it by itself, and solve. So we start with a word problem. The height in feet of a tree after X years is 1.5x plus 15. After how many years is a tree 24 feet tall? So I'm just rewriting this equation, 1.5x plus 15, and that is equal to 24 feet. So we need to solve for this x. We need to get it by itself. In order to do that, we need to get rid of what's with it. And you must start, if there's addition or subtraction, you must start with that. And remember, what you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to both sides. That cancels out and makes 0. So I have 1.5x equals 24 minus 15 is 9. So now I'm left with 1.5x equals 9. These two things right here are stuck with multiplication. So to undo multiplication, I divide. I do my inverse operation. And then, let me get my calculator out. 9 divided by 1.5 is 6. So our answer here is 6 feet. So after 6 years, the tree is 24 feet tall. On B, I have 8x minus 6x minus 25 equals negative 35. Now, right here, I see 8x minus 6x. I must combine those terms first. So 8x minus 6x is 2x minus 25 equals negative 35. I just copied down the rest. Once again, addition or subtraction, you've got to get rid of first. So I do my opposite operation and I add 25 to both sides. And so I'm left with 2x equals negative 35 plus 25, which is negative 10. Divide both sides by 2 because that's multiplication. So to undo multiplication, I divide. And x is equal to negative 5. Letter C is a little tricky. We have x minus 4 in the numerator, all divided by negative 3 equals 5. Okay, so I need to get x minus 4 by itself, and currently this negative 3 is in the way. These two things are stuck with division. So to undo division, remember I multiply. You've got to multiply the whole thing. And what you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So when I multiply this by negative 3, these negative 3's cancel out, and you're left with x minus 4 equals 5 minus negative 3, which is negative 15. My first step. Now I just have one more step. X minus 4, you're going to add 4 to both sides. And you have x equals negative 15 plus 4, which is negative 11. And then you are done. All right, go ahead and do whatever your teacher has asked you to do on the on your owns. And I'm going to move on to the rest of the notes. All right, distributive property. I know you guys have seen the distributive property in 7th grade, and now all we are doing is just adding it into solving equations. So when you see a number directly next to a set of parentheses, you need to distribute what's inside or what's outside of the parentheses to what's inside. And when we distribute, we multiply. So 2 times negative 5x is negative 10x. 2 times 1 is plus 2. And then you just copy down the rest. Plus 4 equals negative 8. Combining my like terms, 2 plus 4 is 6. So then I have negative 10x plus 6 equals negative 8. And now I'm solving a 2-step equation. So I need to subtract 6 from both sides. You're left with negative 10x equals negative 8 minus 6 is negative 14. Divide both sides by negative 10. And negative 14 divided by negative 10 is 1.4, or you could write it as a fraction, but 1.4 is fine. Same thing here, distribute the negative 3. So the negative 3 gets distributed to what's inside via multiplication. So negative 3 times 3x is negative 9x, and negative 3 times 4 is negative 12, and that's equal to 6. And then we have to isolate x. So we need to get 12 to the other side. So you're left with negative 9x equals 6 plus 12, which is 18. Negative 9 times x means we need to divide both sides by negative 9. And 18 divided by negative 9 is negative 2. All right, the last example is our real life application. So the problem says, use the table to find the number of miles x you need to run on Friday so that the mean, remember what mean means, mean is the average. So to find the average, we add them all up and divide by how many we have. To find the average number of miles run per day is 1.5. So if the person ran 2 miles on Monday, 0 miles on Tuesday, 1.5 miles on Wednesday, 0 on Thursday, we need to find how many miles on Friday so that their average is 1.5. And what I said earlier, how do we find average? We add them all up and divide by how many we have. So we are going to add these all up. 2 plus 0 plus 1.5 plus 0 plus x. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Divide by how many we have. We have 5. We want our mean to be 1.5. We want our average to be 1.5. So now let's combine like terms. 2 plus 0 plus 1.5 plus 0 plus x is 3.5 plus x divided by 5 is equal to 1.5. Now we had this type of problem earlier where we had something in the denominator and our x was in the numerator. So if you remember, we multiply both sides by the denominator to get it to go away. So that goes away and you're left with 3.5 plus x equals 1.5 times 5, which is 7.5. And now we've got a really easy equation to solve. This goes back to lesson 1.1. So 3.5 plus x equals 7.5. We subtract 3.5 from both sides. This goes away, and you're left with x equals 4 miles. Now, that means you have to run 4 miles on Friday to get an average of 1.5. Now, we can definitely check our work here. You can add 2 and 0 and 1.5 and 0 and 4. That's 4, 5, 6, 7.5 miles. Divide it by how many days, which is 5. And we should get our average, which is 1.5, which we do. So you can definitely check your work on that type of problem. All right, you have 2 on your owns and a word problem left. Remember, this word problem number 6 is the same thing as the miles. So you scored an 88, a 92, and an 87. What do you need on the 4th test? So the 4th test is going to be x, so that your mean score is 90. So you're going to add these 4. You're going to divide by 4 and set it equal to 90 and solve. All right, that is it for lesson 1.2, which is solving multi-step equations.